It's Market Day Report. Hey, welcome to Friday and the final trading day of the month, final trading day of the week, and happy Halloween. All right. Maybe nothing spooky in the markets today. Let's look at corn, and the overnight trade was lower, down 2.5 at 427 3/4. Really, we were lower across the board yesterday with all of the row crops. Couple of exceptions there. Canola was higher, but it's been higher for 4 straight sessions. The rice market was higher. And, well, we'll talk about another one that went higher as well. But December corn in the overnight, 427 3/4 as we slipped 2.5 cents. This was the other market that was higher yesterday, and it was beans. But November overnight down to 1087 off 4 1/4. How about the wheat market? Wheat settled lower across the board yesterday. We're adding to some of those losses, 518 1/4. That's down 6. Hard red is trading down 6 3/4, 506 1/4. And Minneapolis is higher across the board, kind of bucking the trend in the overnight. But cotton keeps it rolling, 64.98, down 14. Brian Hoops is with Midwest Market Solutions. All right, Brian, downturn. I'm looking at like the wheat numbers here, and we're starting to slide back to where we were.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case with the wheat. You step back and look at the fundamental picture of wheat. We just don't have much in the way of bullish fundamental inputs. The winter wheat crop is being seeded, will go dormant in about 3 or 4 weeks. And it looks like we're going to have a pretty highly rated crop. Now, we don't get that number from the USDA on Mondays any longer, but last Monday, Bloomberg did a survey, and the estimate came in about 50% of the crop right now that's being seeded is good to excellent. That's pretty highly rated for this time of year. It was 38% a year ago. So, yeah, you just don't have really any fundamentals for the wheat market. We had a nice rally mainly on short covering, and now the market has turned back lower after failing at some resistance. Kind of the same case for corn. Unfortunately, with the government being closed, we're devoid of any of those bullish inputs that we've been seeing for corn. We don't have the strong export business. We don't have the private export sales. We don't even have yield numbers coming out from the government. And all that was bullish for the corn market. But we're just kind of confined to trading in this range that seemingly we've been in for since going back to August, 410 up to 430. We tried to break above that with the Chinese news this week and with soybeans and soybean meal surging. But now we're right back into that trading range, even though we're still at the top end of it. And even soybeans pulling back off of highs that we had scored here just yesterday off of the Chinese news. Overnight, Bloomberg reported another 3 to 4 cargoes of soybeans have been sold off the Pacific Northwest to China, which is a good sign. They're still continuing to buy soybeans and accumulating some more soybeans. Hopefully, we'll continue to hear more and more reports about that at least we are making some sales to the Chinese, and hopefully they will end up purchasing at least that 12 million tons this year that they had promised just yesterday.
All right. Hey, Brian, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment. We got to look at livestock futures as we head into the expiration of an October live cattle contract. It's all ahead. This is Market Day Report. Let's focus on cattle for a moment. Live cattle futures have been higher for 3 straight sessions now, and this is after we kind of thought the bottom was falling out of the market, right? Well, December ended yesterday at 231.17, up 27, February higher. But look at that October contract. It ran up to 235.50, up 410. Now, that contract will expire at the end of the day, and we've been watching cash trade. Iowa, Nebraska, 230 already. We've got bids of 235 in Kansas and asking prices in Texas and Kansas, 238 to 240, and that's why we saw that big rally in the October contract. Again, that expires today and should be as close as it can to cash. Feeders, January at 334.40 as it jumps 37 on the session, 2 straight wins for feeders. And finally over to the hogs, lower for the seventh straight session. Brian Hoops is president, Midwest Market Solutions. Where do we go here on the final trading day of the month?
Well, let's start with October cattle. They go off the board today, as you mentioned. Feeders went off yesterday, but they had rallied yesterday right up to 235.50, and that's where we heard some trade on the Fed Cattle Exchange. Some was sold there out of Texas. We also heard some 235 bids that were traded in Kansas and Texas. Although the volume may not be real large, we are looking probably $3 to $4 softer than a week ago, but maybe earlier are better than early week expectations. Same thing in the southern trade or northern trade. Dressed was 360 yesterday, which is pretty much steady with what we saw Monday and Tuesday. That is down about $9 from last week. So we're sharply lower to begin the week. Now that we're ending the week, we've kind of stabilized, started to firm up a little bit. And the calls next week for the cash already are steady to maybe even higher. Packer margins have really been restored on this break in the cash markets because cutout values have been trending higher up until last night. So Packer margins went from negative to well over $200 ahead to maybe about $83 in the red right now. A big improvement, and that's got a lot of the trade anticipating if we don't sell any more today or clean up any show lists today, we'll carry them over to next week as we may have a shot for steady to higher money once again. So we're looking at that cash trade. October futures pretty much in line with where we're at already. The futures in the deferred contracts and in the feeders probably going to see very choppy type action today, maybe more consolidation after we've had such huge swings over the last, well, not only 7 days, but also several weeks.
All right, Brian, it's always great to see you. Happy Halloween. Brian Hoops, Midwest Market Solutions.